Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Football Fan Show. I'm joined by a co-host, as always, Carlos. Pleasure to have you always with me
Hi, Mac.
on the
Pleasure.
show. Yeah, pleasure. So let's get straight into it. So, what was supposed to happen today was that, well, I was toying with the idea of watching Sheffield United against Fulham. I thought, oh, that'd be quite good, be quite nice. Now, I personally have in England have all of the channels. I've paid for all of them, so I've paid for Sky Sports. I'm going to spell out Prime. I've paid for BT Sport, and obviously BBC is terrestrial. So I thought, okay, fine. So it'd be quite, good to, see what's going on. And I've had a look, and I thought, oh, I can't see it. But anyway, I'll speak to Carlos. We might do a little bit of a watch along together. And Carlos told me it's pay per view. I thought that surely can't be right. And I've looked it up, and it is pay per view. Unbelievable. So when you associate with pay per view, you usually think about boxing. Boxing once every 3 to 6 months. It's not a regular thing. It's not like watch a week in week out. It's one thing that happens once in a while. So you're prepared to pay the £15, whatever. But here we are, and we've got football going down that route. Now, football is something we watch every week in, week out. And yet now we're going down this route. Now, let's before we get into it, I appreciate that it's COVID and people have to make their money. But what's your thoughts on the matter anyway, before I get into my thoughts about it, Carlos?
Well, I actually think it's a scandal. Pay-per-view. I'm against pay TV anyway. I don't think you should be paying to watch TV. After all, TV channels have advertising, don't they?
Yeah.
And if other TV channels can survive and do well without charging a subscription, why should certain channels do so? I mean, it's a new concept, isn't it? Well, new in comparison to other TV channels. And also, as far as I can tell, pay TV is the only business that charges you twice for the same service. You see, because you pay your subscription, so you have access to their programming, their schedule. And then when there's something that they think is extra good or extra appealing, they'll charge you again.
Yeah.
Now, to a certain extent, I can understand with boxing because they have to buy the event.
Yeah.
But the Premier League has been bought. They've got that. They've got it. They've paid for that. They've made their calculations. And the subscription to the channel goes towards paying for all of that and gives them a profit together with the advertising. But the boxing, okay, they have to buy it separately, so it's more of an expense. But even then, the advertising they get from a big boxing event is a lot more than they would get for anything else. So even then, it's a bit questionable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it feels like, and like I said, I appreciate it's COVID. It feels like the kind of person who's got a brand new car but's got no money in the bank. I mean, that's how it feels like. That's how it feels, because surely COVID has been around for a little while now. We know it. I mean, it's October, and we've been dealing with this since. Well, we knew about it from November, December time, but obviously it was in China at the time, and then it's obviously moved around the world and moved around the world from January, February. It's October. So you know that the situation is bad. You know it's going to be bad for this year and next year. And yet here we are, where in many ways I think they're taking liberties. I think it's bang out of order. Now they're saying, they're turning around saying, oh well, these games would not have been shown anyway. So we're just, obviously they've divvied it out to the various channels to charge $14.95 for watching your own team play. Where do they come off with that kind of reasoning? I don't understand it.
No, I think it's completely wrong. Now, they would say that football supporters are saving money because they're not going to matches. So instead of paying 60, 70 quid to go and see their team, they only have to pay £15 to the TV company. And they would have a point there. But that still doesn't get away from the fact that you are a subscriber and you have subscribed to watching the Premier League. In fact, what they're doing, I think, is violating the agreement they have with the subscribers.
Yeah.
Because the subscribers have joined a particular company in order to watch the Premier League.
Yeah.
Now, to say that suddenly, I know that in their contract they say they can change the terms, and you can't have a say in it. So that is, an ace they keep up their sleeve. But morally, it's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like being charged a tenner to go into a cinema and then being charged extra to watch a film.
Yeah. It's so wrong. It's so wrong. And it's funny you should say that about their argument. So their argument, like you said, would be, oh, well, you're saving money, you're at home, and this and that and the other. But the reason why people like me or yourself will go to a match is for the experience. We're quite happy. It's not, unless you're a season ticket holder, but even season ticket holders will pay, even at Arsenal, thousands of pounds. Other clubs, just under £1,000. Travel, obviously that costs. Eat some food, that costs. Maybe have a beer, or whatever drink you like, that's a cost. Maybe buy a new shirt if you're with your kid. Maybe buy them a few bits and pieces. It's the experience that you have week in, week out, enjoying the football. So you're happy to pay that amount because, as we said, it's adding value. You're adding value, watching the game, and there's other bits around it. And obviously the clubs make money from them. That's fine. So that's adding value. Now, let's talk a bit about adding value here. So they're charging $14.95, but already there's been criticism of it. Now, the reason being is because people are frustrated with the situation. They're not getting quality. They're not getting value for money. So they're watching the match. But every single match I can ever think of, I've ever watched, even back in the day, has pundits. People who are talking a bit about the game, especially if you remember you're paying for this, talking a bit about the game, the build-up, the teams, and all the rest of it, and after the game as well. But these ones, there's been a lot of criticism, a lot of blowback, saying that basically there's been no pundits. It's literally the game. There's no talking throughout the game. It's literally you just watching the game, and that's it. I mean, that's a scandal for $14.95, isn't it?
What they're trying to win and make a profit on all sides. Because on the one hand, they've got the match that they should be showing and offering you for nothing, but they've decided to charge you for it. And on the other hand, they're saving on the production costs.
Yeah.
You see? So, and I bet there's advertising.
Oh, of course there is.
Advertising. Yeah. They're not going to cut back on that, are they? So, they can't have it their way on all sides.
No.
I just think it's wrong. I really hope that nobody subscribes to watch that box office football. I hope that nobody pays extra to watch those matches. As you know, I live in Spain, and it's affected us here because we were watching here all of the Premier League matches. And yesterday I was surprised that we couldn't see the Chelsea-Southampton in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's because of this new agreement.
That was the first one. That was the first pay-per-view.
Yeah. And today I was all excited. Don't know why, but I was excited that I was going to watch Fulham. And it turns out that's pay-per-view as well, which means that we can't see it here. We'll be able to catch a recorded version of the match, 90 minutes of the game, at midnight tonight. But it's not the same, is it?
No,
it's not the same. So I'll watch it because it's Fulham. But what they have done has actually had an impact on foreign viewers as well. Yeah,
I mean, it's so let's just talk through that situation actually. So the first offering, like I said, was Chelsea. Obviously, this has only just happened. That's why we're talking about it, because it's only just happened. So the first one was Chelsea against Southampton. That was on BT. Sky have done one as well. That was Newcastle against Man United. And people obviously were kicking off. And then obviously your game today is the third one. So the thing about it is that we've talked quite in depth about the fact that now football has to re-engage with the fans. They have to, because how are you going to get the fans back in when it's time to start again, getting them back in? Because people will maybe stay at home, maybe be wary, whatever. Obviously, you'll have the season ticket holders. So here we have a situation where, in many ways, they're stabbing the fans in the back because, one, the guys who are in the UK have to pay to watch it, their money. And the guys abroad, every team, especially in the Premiership, relies and loves the global feel of their support, and they're not even allowing you to see it live. It's just crazy. How much? I mean, we'll get into it in a minute about the project, big picture, but how much of a stab in the back is this to the fans? They're definitely not uninterested in the fans. They're interested in their bottom line, aren't they?
This is just pure greed. And I think it's immoral as well, because what they're doing is they're taking advantage of the COVID situation.
Yeah.
In order to make some extra cash. Now, I can imagine the top dogs at these TV channels or whoever made the decision sitting around a table and thinking, people want to see football. Because obviously I'm sure that the viewing figures must have been good over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
It must have been. Because people can only see football on TV now. You can't go to matches. So they must have said, hey, people want this. So let's do a dirty on them and charge extra for it.
Yeah.
I mean, is that morally right? Just because you see that people want it, you charge them twice for the same thing because you're paying your subscription, as I said. And now you're being asked to pay more. I really do hope that this falls flat on its face and that they have to go back on it.
Yeah. There needs to be, definitely, fans need to stand against this because it can't go on. We can't, at the moment as well, COVID is a time when people are looking at their bottom line. People are trying to save money, and yet you're asking them to spend more money. It's a scandal. People have lost jobs. People have gone through the first wave, lost jobs, and then maybe found another job. And now we're going through the second wave again, where people are going to lose jobs. Even here in the UK, furlough is coming to an end, and people are, in a situation. Here we are, and you're asking them for more money just for a game. Obviously, people have kicked off, and it's going around social media. There needs to be a stand against this until they change their minds. Because at the start, do you remember at the start? I mean, okay, maybe obviously you weren't in the UK, but at the start, they were actually showing some of the Premier League games free when it first started. Do you remember that? Do you remember hearing about that? And they've come completely the other direction.
Yeah. Well, what's the justification? How can they justify this? I think that what they are saying is, we know there's a crisis. We know people are losing their jobs. We know people are ill and some people are dying, but we don't care. We just see this as a business opportunity.
Yeah.
Because people will be at home. People can't go to football. And the only football they can see is on TV. So, hey, let's make the most of that. That's what they're saying. And in a terrible situation like the one we're experiencing now, that is a disgusting attitude.
Yeah, it's so wrong. And like I said, I really hope that people stand against it. And it comes to the point where there's people power. There's people power. We need to stop this and stop it, as quickly as possible.
Well, the power that people have is by not buying into that.
Yeah, it works, and it does work.
If you don't do it, then they'll have to get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, there is a hashtag now, actually. Hashtag boycott PPV, and it's trending on Twitter. The backlash is quite astounding on this. And people are like, no, we're not going to have it. So there's already a feeling that this is wrong. And that it shouldn't happen. And even, you won't believe this, Mourinho's got involved in it. He said already £14. This is Jose Mourinho. £14, a lot of money, he said in his pre-match press conference ahead of the game today. So we've got the fans who are against it. We've got managers against it. I mean, what the Premier League want? And this brings us to the question about Project Big Picture. I mean, the Premier League surely are out of touch, and going back to Big Picture, maybe the top six should have a bit of power in this situation, because I'm pretty sure if they were at the decision table, this wouldn't have been happening. No way would they be doing this. No chance.
On the one hand, I'm glad that Mourinho's got involved. I think it speaks highly of him, because other managers will probably shy away from the topic.
Yeah.
But Mourinho isn't one to keep his mouth shut. He's not always my cup of tea, but sometimes you've got to applaud the man.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do. You really do have to applaud the man. And Mac, I'm not sure that the Big Six would have stopped this. I think if Project Big Picture would have gone ahead, I think it would have been worse.
Oh, really?
I really do think it would have been worse. Yeah. There were no good intentions behind that plan.
No, that's true. That's true.
It was just another another demonstration of big, powerful companies being greedy, I think. In the same way as the TV companies are being greedy.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to say, I've looked at something else here. They're saying, we had a suggested retail price, and we're certainly not making significant money out of this, amounts of money. We're pretty much just covering our costs, which means that why bothering to do it then? I'd rather just didn't do it.
I think that is a downright lie.
Yeah, of course.
Because if they're covering costs by charging 15 quid, does that mean that for every other match that they've been showing and not charging, they've been losing money?
It's a good
because
point.
If they're only covering costs when they're charging extra, if they're not charging that extra, then obviously they're losing money, and they're not.
I like it. I wish we could. I'd love to chat to somebody in the Premier League who comes up with this nonsense. It's obviously it's all a game. It's all politics, and they're all trying to make themselves cover themselves with glory when they've done the exact opposite. Well, I've told you about the Twitter. We know how powerful Twitter is. I mean, gosh, American politics is decided by Twitter, and it's so powerful. So I think they're going to be struggling to really convince people that it's the right way forward. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad we had the chat about that. And
all we need is for people to stand firm, Mac. That's all we need. Stand firm. And what worries me is that people in general, and I think it's been obvious throughout history, to begin with, they do stand firm. They're very militant about things. And then gradually they're worn down.
Yeah.
And by next week or 2 weeks' time, some supporter who wants to see his team might say, wow, all right, I'll do it this time. And when you do it once, then you'll just carry on.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, fans are fickle, and we need to see everybody stand against it. Anybody who watches this, you take a stand against this pay-per-view, and you need to tell your friends to take a stand. It's people power that's going to stop this nonsense. We can't have this in the Premier League. We're already paying through the nose as fans. And remember, the fans pay for the football. So we got to vote with our feet on this one. And make sure it doesn't happen.
Coming back to that matter, that one of the TV channels said that they're breaking even. So all of these years that they've not been charging extra for Premier League matches, they've been losing on every single match. They'd be bankrupt by now. They're lying through their teeth.
Yeah,
they think we're stupid. They really do think we're stupid enough to swallow what they tell us.
Yeah. It's crazy. Because the thing about, like you said, they're advertising. So how can they just be covering their costs? Because there's advertisements throughout the game, before, middle, and after. So what are you talking about? You got 15-minute break, and especially if there's no pundits, you can guarantee they just fill 15 minutes worth of advertising.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it funny that now, this is interesting, when they're just covering their costs, or at least managing to cover their costs, as they said, because they're charging extra. They don't have pundits. But when they don't charge you extra because it's not pay-per-view, in theory, they're not making as much money. They do have pundits. That's a contradiction. That is a contradiction.
It's a complete contradiction. You're right. So they usually have what? 3 pundits, probably on average. 3 pundits in there. Then they have them at pitch side as well. At least 2 people talking, 2 guys or man or woman, whatever. So that's 5 people. They have to cover their whatever wage they get for the match. Obviously, you get paid per match. Plus the camera people, and all the light and all the rest of it. So it's an absolute nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we'll see. But like I said, everyone needs to vote their feet. Everyone who watches this, vote with your feet. Do not, under any circumstances, pay for pay-per-view. Wait till later when it's actually free, when they've made whatever the money they're going to make, and then keep it at that. We know you love your team, but this has not got to become the norm. That's my biggest fear about this, is that we know that we've talked about it, and we know that the guys here in England were talking about, go back in October, we'll go back in October, but we know in reality that football is not going to be the same again until probably 2022 now, because even if they find a cure, it's going to take time to get it right, trials or rest of it. I mean, I know about pharmaceuticals through my wife, and it takes a good couple of years to get things right.
Not just that, but there was a poll held in Spain, and I'm sure it would be very similar. You'd get a similar result in the UK and everywhere else. They asked people, would they get the vaccination? Would they be vaccinated now if it was available? Or once it's available, will they get the vaccine?
Yeah.
And only about 40% said they would.
Yeah, of course.
Because people don't trust it.
They don't.
A vaccine that's been developed so quickly, surely,
side effects.
Well, it hasn't been trialed or tested as well as other vaccines that have taken years to develop.
Yeah.
So you would be justified to have doubts.
Yeah.
And if you have any doubts, you're not going to get the vaccine. So even when it's developed and produced and put out there and offered to people, are people going to take it?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I mean, anything that's a rush job, you can always tell the difference between that and something which has been taken time, effort, from the car to the settee. You can just tell the difference in quality and something which has just been put together. And your body is the most important part of you. So why would you put something in it that normally takes a minimum 3 to 5 years to develop?
Oh yeah. I mean, some vaccines have taken up to 10 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
I mean, 18 months I think is the minimum.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, I'm not an expert, but I've been following this.
Yeah.
And 18 months is more or less the minimum. Yeah. And they're talking about putting it out in 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah, it's just madness.
I'm not going to get that vaccine.
I'm not, no chance. I mean, the side effect, and if you think about potential side effects, now you may get, even if there were side effects, even you had issues, you may get some sort of compensation. But your body is, if your body's broken, your body's broken. You only get one life.
Not just some side effects, like, I don't know, some short-term side effects, but what about long-term? You don't know what taking something like that is going to do to you in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not
something that's not been trialed and tested properly. Well, they would claim it has been trialed and tested properly. But if that were the case, then why don't all vaccines take this time to do that?
Well, exactly.
Okay, they'll say that they've put in more resources and that there's more urgent need to develop it, and that's why more countries are making a determined effort. But I'm sure that corners are being cut.
Yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt. And, that's why people are cautious. And I think that mindset, like you said, about 40% is pretty much around the world. I think most people, unless they really are in an area like in the UK in the north, where it's quite populated in a small, dense area, and they've had a lot of issues, then you might be more like, let me quickly get it done. But, like, for example, where I am, down in the south, a bit more spacious, there's no rush. There's no rush, and why would you take something when you're not in an area which is really, having that many issues? So there's that as well. So many different areas to think about. So,
best thing to do right now is just follow the rules and be very careful, which a lot of people are not doing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons why, this isn't going away very quickly. And obviously it's going to affect business, and football is a business. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing.
Yeah. And hopefully
the companies, the big, and isn't it funny? It's the big companies, the richer companies that are being more greedy.
Yes. Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, there's people like Zoom who kind of tripped into the kind of COVID situation, and then people soaked them up. So, in that circumstance, it's understandable. They had started before COVID and they're doing their thing. Amazon have always been doing well regardless. But those who are specifically utilizing the pandemic to make a profit is just unacceptable. And like I said, my fear is that this could become the norm for the next couple of years. So let's hopefully it gets binned and we move away from this. So we shall see what happens. But whilst we're here, anyway, why don't we talk about the games yesterday? Shall we have a quick chat about that?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so Everton and Liverpool. Oh, 2-2. But regardless of this result, let's forget the result for a bit. Let's talk honestly about the end with the VAR. Now, you said you've seen it. I remember we've talked about it offline. I've seen it as well. I mean, how can that be offside? I mean, what's going on?
I thought it was a good goal. When I saw it was being reviewed, I was sure it was going to be given.
Yeah.
And then you see the photograph that was used, and to be honest, Mane looks in line with the last defender.
100%.
But there is a line drawn, a red and a blue, two lines, a red and a blue line, and the red line is just further towards the goal than the blue line. Now, what I would say is that even though, to me, it looks completely like a good goal, I would say that I cannot expect to have a better view of it with the naked eye than VAR would have had with technology. So all I can assume is that he was slightly offside.
Yeah. Now, but you showed me in Spain that they actually were fully transparent with the VAR.
No, that wasn't in Spain. That was in South America and the South American qualifiers.
Oh, South America. So I apologize. But that was brilliant because you actually saw how they came to that decision. And that was brilliant. It was really good because you could actually see how they came to it and why they decided that was what it was. Whether it's a goal or not.
Just for the viewer's sake, there was controversy in the South American qualifiers, but what CONMEBOL, which is the equivalent of UEFA, did was the next day they released the audios of the three referees in VAR discussing the incident and coming to a decision. Sometimes you even got the pictures of the three referees sat in the VAR room, and I think that can only be good. Now, the trouble is that in most countries there is a distinct attempt to avoid transparency.
Yeah,
because referees aren't even allowed to talk after the game.
It's walk off. They shake hands. They stand in the middle of the pitch, and once everyone's shaken,
I mean, they're not allowed to talk to the press after the game.
Oh no, of course not.
They're not allowed. Now, wouldn't it be better if they did?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it clear things up? Why did you give that decision? What made you reach that decision? And maybe it would clear things up. You don't know, but what certainly will not clear things up is complete silence.
Yeah.
Now, why? Why are they not allowed to speak?
It's a good point. And I don't think it's ever been breached, really. I think VAR and the referees need to be more transparent in the UK because there's these controversial decisions. This one in particular it's created now furore, because now Liverpool have gone and asked for why these decisions were made. They've actually made it public to the world that they've actually asked how these decisions were made, how these VAR decisions were made. So if this controversy didn't have to happen, if there were people to talk to straight away. But now, obviously, like I said, the referees shake hands, walk off, and leave, and that's it. They don't talk to anybody. VAR, nothing happens.
Well, what I would say is, on the one hand, yes, anything that can improve on the technology and on its effect on a game is positive. But I think that for Liverpool to complain and ask the Premier League to review the situation, I think it's shocking. Because all I would do is I would say, Jurgen, come and sit down with me and let's go through your games of last season and let's see some of the penalties you got. I didn't see you complaining then. So, it's okay to complain when a decision goes against you, but you're quiet when they favor you.
Yeah.
So don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. I just think it's shocking that they should make such a big thing of it. Yes, obviously they're going to be upset. But as I said, last season and the season before and throughout many, many years, big clubs have had decisions go their way more than they've had bad decisions against them.
Yeah.
And in particular, and in this case, because it's Liverpool doing the complaining, I would say, as I said, come here, Jurgen, let me have a chat with
you. Fair enough. Yeah, no, that's true. And look, for Everton, it's a great result. You know how much I love Ancelotti. He's one of my favourites managers ever. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Calvert-Lewin continuing to do what he does. Richarlison, I don't know why he's getting involved. It's a ridiculous situation. So, but no, good result all round. And I suppose for Liverpool, they just need to keep on, focusing on the football, not just focusing on VAR. Now, let's move on to another team.
So before we move on, can I just say, instead of complaining so much, Jurgen Klopp should be worried about the 13 goals his team have conceded.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason why they haven't won their last two matches.
Yeah, this highlight is not working. But, I always remember Conte when they played us and we beat them, Chelsea, and he completely changed things and they won the league. Yeah. And here we are. This guy, Klopp, completely standing his ground. I'm not going to move from what I'm doing. It's madness, isn't it?
Conte went from a 4-man defense to a 3-back line, 2 wing backs. And it worked beautifully, which is the system he used in Italy. And he knows how to play that system really well, because his teams defend well and attack well when they employ that system. Liverpool have not only been conceding goals, they've looked shaky. And they could have even conceded more in the matches that we've seen.
Yeah.
So that should be a more pressing issue for Jurgen Klopp than an isolated incident that, yes, could have cost them a couple of points. But the question is, as I said, can we expect to have a better view of what's happening with a naked eye than VAR does with technology? I mean, it would be very arrogant of me to say, oh, I saw that picture, he was onside. Hang on, but they've got measurements and lines and I don't know all the equipment they use. But surely all of that put together must be able to be more accurate than my view of the picture.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. No, technology, especially any change in life, any change in sport, is difficult to digest, especially since we've been used to a certain way of watching it. Now, the guy who is born in 2016 is not going to care, and it will always have lived with VAR, when they watch it when they're 4 or 5, whatever. But a guy who's even from 2000, if you're a 20-year-old, you've watched football a certain way, you're probably more flexible to that idea because things are changing around us all the time. But people like old fogies like us who've watched football for many, many years are used to some bad decisions made by referees. But obviously, because of money, that's why we're here. Money is really, as we've talked about earlier, the driving force behind all this. Without the decisions and the extremely bad decisions at times that are made, which have caused all kinds of controversy and where you finish on the table, then we wouldn't be bringing in. They wouldn't have brought in technology, and because I don't think it was ever about fairness. I thought it was about more the fact that the right decision has to be made, or as close to the right decision has to be made. And so computers hopefully don't lie.
Well, I've always been in favor of technology. I've spoken out in favor of technology for about 30 years. Okay. But I've supported it because I want football to be a fairer game. There were too many bad decisions in big matches, and even if they're not big matches, you should have a right to win and lose matches yourself, not for referees to have such an influence that they can make you lose a game that you shouldn't have lost.
Yeah.
So I think it's only fair. And I'm not sure the big clubs are very much in favor of VAR because, as I said, human error over the years has always benefited the big clubs, generally.
Yeah.
Generally. Not always, but generally. So I'm not sure they're too happy. But it's the way ahead. It's the only way to move forward. Every other sport is doing it. Why shouldn't football?
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I do think that you have to try to be as fair as possible. I mean, before, a friend of mine who used to do the Spanish show we used to do here on TV, he used to work on the show with me, an English friend who speaks very good Spanish. He said that not having VAR or not having technology, it wasn't even called VAR in those days. We just used to talk about technology. He said it was like driving a car with no steering wheel. And I think he's right. I like
that. That's a good one. I like that. I really like that. That is true. It's true. It's so true. There were way too many bad decisions. I mean, some benefited us and other teams as well over the years, especially when Manchester United and Arsenal were the two top teams. We had many benefits from human error.
You see, also, Mac, there were occasions. I mean, sometimes it's very difficult to see, like the one we had yesterday with Mane. But there were other instances when a goal would be given, for instance, because the referee had to make a on-the-spot decision, a very quick decision, and would give a goal. And then everyone in the world would watch the replay and see that there was an infringement, a prior infringement.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world knew it, but the referee, because the referee was not able to view it again.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's
why I was always a supporter of technology.
Yeah.
Even before it was called VAR. I don't care what they use, as long as they use something.
Yeah.
Now, it's still in its infancy, really. It's going to get better. Of course it's going to get better. And when it does, then, hopefully we'll be able to avoid the controversy. People say, at least here in Spain, I don't know in the UK, you can confirm this for me, but people say, but part of football is the controversy that it creates and the discussions that you have the next day. I don't agree. I think football is about 90 minutes of football.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to argue about an offside. I don't want to have to be upset because my team conceded a goal that was scored with a handball. I don't see the point in. See, I don't like controversy. Now, people would say, yes, controversy. We still have controversy. But as I said, is it really controversial? What happened yesterday at Goodison Park controversial? Because we're just talking about what we see with the naked eye.
Yeah. No, I mean, and we're talking about Man City Arsenal because again, this is another one. But I agree with you about that. I think the older generation very much in favour, like I said, of not using technology. But I agree. I'm very much an advocate of it because at the end of the day, even if you think about a situation, you've got one referee in the middle of the pitch following the ball, ultimately, and those around the ball. There's overall 11 against 11, whether it's a men's or women's game. You can't know everything that's in front of you that's happening or behind you. You're watching what happens with the ball. If someone makes a tackle or makes a foul there, that's why you got the lines people. But the lines people, their job is to look for the offsides ultimately, and maybe see a little foul if you can't see it, wave their flag. But overall, they're focused on the lines. They're not focused on the other things that are going on around you. You need technology. You need everything. That's the way you need the goal line technology. How many issues happen with that? How many millions of controversies have with the goal line technology? And it's only failed once, I'm aware. Obviously, we know about that with Villa. But they needed that because too much decisions were made based on the person's, whatever they thought the game was going on or whatever. It doesn't matter. But technology is so needed. Yeah. I agree with you.
I mean, for instance, Frank Lampard's goal against Germany.
Yeah, that was crazy.
2010 in South Africa. That was about 3 yards over the line, wasn't it?
It was crazy.
It would have been an equalizer.
Yeah.
It would have, in a game that England was completely being outplayed and Germany looked like they were cruising. England somehow got themselves back into it and equalized. But the equalizer was never given, and then England ended up losing. Was it 4-1 they ended up losing?
I can't remember, but they definitely lost. Yeah, but yeah, there was that. Obviously, that went on forever. Yeah, no, look, there's so much through the years that was bad. So yeah, let's move on to this game. Man City against Arsenal. So obviously, Arsenal, Man City played well. No two ways about that. They played really well. Arsenal played better than I've ever seen them play for. It's got to be over 10 years in this situation away. So usually away, we still haven't been in the top six for a long time away, but we played with steel, with determination. And really the goal was from one mistake by Leno, for me. I mean, the ball ricocheted into him. He didn't smother it or push it away from any direction to go back at him. He pushed it right in front of him. They just kicked it back at him. It was just tapped in. It was ridiculous. What was your thoughts on the game?
Well, I thought that it was fairly well balanced. I thought City were slightly better.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it was very unlike Arsenal, what they did yesterday. The Arsenal of recent years, not the Arsenal of Arteta. And I say that because I think Arteta has instilled some steel in the side. They can compete better. They can defend better. And they were taking the game to Man City at times.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about defending and breaking, which is really what I expected. But there were moments when Arsenal were trying to push City back. Whether they were able to do it or not is a different matter because obviously you've got to take into account what the opposition does as well.
Yeah.
But I thought that Arsenal gave a very good account of themselves. And that's very promising. True, I think that Man City are not at their best. That's also a fact. But I think Arsenal are heading in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I think Arteta's doing a great job. So let's go straight into the controversy near the end with Gabriel and Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker, he had a good game. So the ball came out, bounced out. He had a high leg up in the air, studs up, connected with the ball, and Gabriel was heading the ball at the same time. Now, like you said, we said earlier, the naked eye, it seemed like he had fouled him. Gabriel didn't make anything of it. Ball bounced down, and then obviously he tried to shot, it didn't go in. So that was that. But there was the VAR, obviously a few seconds behind, we know that, and they said there's nothing to question. And even they said after the game, obviously the pundit said that even if he had given a penalty, this is in the penalty box, that VAR would have overturned it. So I mean, for me, obviously, I was biased, so that's fine. But what's your thoughts on that? Do you think the VAR got it right that time?
No, I think VAR got it wrong because they didn't take into account dangerous play.
Yeah.
That was a clear case of dangerous play.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you saw an indirect free kick inside the penalty area for dangerous play?
Never.
That's just not given these days, is it?
No, it's been a long time ago.
It's in the rules, though.
Okay.
It's in the rules. And that was not a penalty, but it was an infringement.
Yeah.
You cannot raise your leg the way Walker did.
No.
That was dangerous play. And dangerous play in the penalty area is an indirect free kick. So because they just dismiss, there's a reluctance to give an indirect in the penalty area. They just let play carry on because they knew it wasn't a penalty. But the fact that it wasn't a penalty doesn't mean it wasn't an infringement.
Yeah, I agree.
There is something in between.
Yes. Yeah, so it should, like I said, by the rule of the law, it should have been an indirect free kick, which, again, I mean, it would have been a tap and then someone trying to have a dig at it, wouldn't they? Something like that. But thinking about it, though, if Gabriel had made more of it, do you think it may have changed the situation? Because we've seen some of the situations happen where people have made a right meal of things. There's no crowd there. Things have been given, which we've been relatively controversial. And what's your thoughts? Would it have made a difference?
I think it would have made a difference perhaps to the referee. And he might have fallen into the trap of giving a penalty. But then I think VAR would have overturned it.
Do you think they would have given an indirect free kick?
No. They didn't give it anyway, so I don't think they would have given it. They would have just said play on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't think the officials at the VAR room ever considered an indirect free kick.
Yeah, it's slightly concerning because they should know this law. Surely that is around. I don't know.
But for some reason, I don't. Is there a tacit agreement not to give indirect free kicks because they're messy? I don't know because, as I said, I can't remember the last time it was given.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, yeah, no, I think it's a fair result. So yeah, there you go. And Chelsea Southampton. Well.
Sorry, just before, if there was, you see, again, I said it's a messy situation, giving an indirect free kick in normal circumstances. But this was on the edge of the 6-yard box, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. The ball was coming out towards the edge. Yeah, exactly.
So you know what the rule says there? The rule says that if it's on the edge of the 6-yard box or wherever, obviously if you have your wall on the goal line, they're only 6 yards away. They're not 10 paces away.
Yeah, okay.
So you have to move the ball back.
Right, okay.
You see, that's why I say it's far too messy. They didn't want to get involved, and they just let it run.
Yeah. And to be honest, Arsenal that let it go as well. They didn't make a big meal of it at the time because we had plenty of chances to score and we didn't. So it's one of those things. But this game, well, Chelsea Southampton. There's been a lot of stats thrown around, unfortunately bad ones for Chelsea, about the situation of Frank Lampard and the defending. Some great goals by your men, the people that you've talked about. The Timo Werner, some fantastic couple of goals there, and obviously Kai Havertz as well. But they just can't defend. I mean, right near the end of the game, 59. 90 plus 2. Sorry, to have that goal. I mean, let's even talk about Danny Ings' goal. The ball just got passed through two defenders, and he just ran. Well, didn't even run. He was kind of through, and then they didn't even pick him up. No one went went whoom like that on him. He literally kind of sauntered through the middle, rounded the goalkeeper. What's going on? What's going on with Chelsea?
Coaching the defensive side is the easiest part of coaching. That's why I'm always surprised to see teams that defend badly, because it's far more difficult to be creative than destructive.
Yeah.
And if you're coaching a team, you can train the team to be compact, to know where they have to stand, even if you haven't got great defenders. But I think in Chelsea's case, it's a matter mainly of personnel. Because this isn't generally, I mean, obviously we have seen positional mistakes, but generally what we're seeing is individual errors. Now, Lampard can't really legislate for that. He can only be made responsible for selecting players who are making individual mistakes. That's where he's responsible. And I ask myself, how long is he going to keep playing Kepa?
We're going to talk about your man in a minute, De Gea, but let's talk about Kepa. So Kepa obviously costs loads of money, and he makes mistakes. But what, you think that the guy, the second choice, is better?
Well, they signed Mendy, but apparently he got injured.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They got a guy who is, well, by all accounts, was good, but he got injured straight away. And then obviously with Kepa, you got to remember about the politics. Remember that Frank Lampard, I'm going to say it, is a company man. He does whatever he's told. That's why they took him on, because obviously a legend for them, fine. But as a company man, he'll do whatever he's told. So I'm sure that Kepa, just like we talked about the hair, which we're going to get into, is got to keep that value. If they don't keep that value on Kepa, they're not going to get even half the money they pay for that guy. So he's going to be played.
Possibly. I think now Chelsea have made up their minds that they're going to play Mendy. But obviously he got injured. But did they need to bring Kepa back? Caballero's not an excellent keeper. Is he still or did he leave, Caballero?
No, he's gone, I think. He's gone.
He gone? Well, listen, who was on the bench yesterday for them?
Oh, no, he is still there. So apologies. I thought he'd gone. But no, it's the Tommy Abraham, Willie Caballero. Sorry.
So now he's third choice.
Yeah.
I would have played Caballero because not only has Kepa made mistakes, but his confidence has gone. And that cannot be good for a goalkeeper. It's not good for any player, but even less for a goalkeeper. And I think you cannot keep giving people a chance if they keep making mistakes. Because at the end of the day, if you keep selecting them, then it's your fault. It's not the keeper who's making the mistakes who's at fault. It's the person putting the keeper between the posts who's making the mistake. Now, there is a statistic which is horrific. Chelsea are the team that there's only one team that allows less shots at goal than Chelsea. Despite all the talk of their bad defending, only Man City concede less shots than Chelsea in the Premier League. Okay. But at the same time, there are only 4 teams that concede more goals than Chelsea, which means if you are conceding less shots but conceding lots of goals, either those shots are brilliant or your keeper is doing poorly.
Oh, he makes so many mistakes. I agree with you.
There's no middle ground there, is there?
No. It's almost like a bath, isn't it? You can pour all the quality in, but if if you haven't plugged it up, it's just going to come straight out again. So it's just non-stop. And that's really where they're at. But I agree with you on that. So we'll see what happens with Chelsea. Look, there's so much going on, and I'm sure there's I know a lot of Chelsea people. A lot of people are saying a lot of things about Chelsea at the moment, but they're saying pretty much what you're saying: individual mistakes. It's all about the individual mistakes, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Then what can you do? You can only try and train them the best you can of your team, but you when you get on that pitch,
I've never liked Christensen. I've never really rated him.
Oh, he's been rubbish. Yeah.
Thiago Silva, who's been brought to shore up the defense, I think is probably past it, and I don't think he was ever great.
No, I agree with that 100%. We saw one good game.
Kurt Zouma has qualities, but he is inconsistent. I like Aspilicueta. I do like
Yeah,
Aspilicueta.
he's quality.
Yeah,
Good
and
captain as
he's
well.
solid. But the central defense area, it has been a problem for a long time, and they haven't really sorted that out, have they?
No, no, they've had some good quality over the years, but
Mm.
it's been a while since they've really dealt with it. And they've been like Arsenal really. They spend a lot of money on the kind of midfield and forwards, but they haven't really invested. Well, got Arsenal recently, but Chelsea need to really focus on that. They got too many mediocre players at the back, like I said, the Zumas and the rest of it. The Christians who helped us by the way in the FA Cup was a great player there for us, well against us, but yeah, I mean, look, they need to sort that out. It needs a complete refresh. But sorry, let's look at your mate De Gea. Look, they won. But De Gea was absolutely shocking, wasn't he? Let's talk about your friend. Let's talk about the De Gea factor for the moment.
Well, the opening goal, I
Yeah.
think it was in the first minute. A ball came across, it deflected off Luke Shaw. And unfortunately for Man U, it went towards the goal. But De Gea didn't even move. And not only, well, he did move, actually. He crouched down, which meant he went further away from the ball. I mean, why would you crouch instead of stretching in order to get to the ball? I thought it was a shocker. He made a good save in the second half. But you see, I'm not denying the fact that he can make excellent saves. He always has done. But do you really want a keeper who will occasionally make great saves and will make probably the same amount of mistakes? I think that's far too risky. Also, he does have one great quality. I do admit. I take my hat off to him. I do take my hat off to him. He makes simple saves look really difficult, and that makes that does fool a lot of people. That does fool a lot of people into thinking that he's made a great save when actually he's just been bread and butter.
So he's quite acrobatic. Has he got the Bruce Grobbler in him, has he?
Yeah, he's all arms and legs, and he's very spectacular about his dives and about everything he does. But I do admit that he can make breathtaking saves. But at the end of the day, what's the use of a breathtaking save if before that save or after that save he's going to concede a silly goal?
Yeah, there you go. We point there. But they're going to keep him playing. There's not going to be no change there, I don't think.
And they've got Henderson. They're going to annoy Henderson into leaving. He's going to be so peeved that he's going to leave.
Yeah, no. Look, it's again back down to the politics. I think. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Well, you've talked about actually. They need to keep him playing.
Well, but they don't want to devalue their commodity.
No.
If they eventually sell him, and he's been on the bench for months, his value will obviously come down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if he plays and he makes mistakes, his value will also come down. I suppose what they're hoping is that they might have a 3-month mistake-free period, so that they can sell him in January. But I think that's very wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Do you know something? Even when De Gea was consistently being chosen player of the year for Man U because he was making good saves, people were ignoring his mistakes. I remember watching him during that period, and I was thinking, can't they see that? Don't they see what just happened? And they were still praising him for fantastic saves, which he was making. Some of those, as I said before, were very exaggerated. I remember a game at Dean Court, Bournemouth. The Vitality, as it's called now. A couple of goals conceded, which were ridiculous. And this was when he was at his peak at Man U. At Watford, several places. But for some reason, people were not making an issue of it. It's not that he's making more mistakes now. That's not true. You see, this is the impression that people are trying to give. What's gone wrong with David De Gea? No, his proportion of great saves and mistakes is more or less the same. May have varied slightly, but all it takes is watching some old matches, and you'll see that I'm right.
So you're saying he's been consistently
inconsistent,
inconsistent,
consistently inconsistent.
It's at best mediocre. At best mediocre. It's been so, or unpredictable maybe at times.
Unpredictable, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, and that's fair. And that's the good thing. A lot of people. That's the thing about football, is it's very opaque. You know, when it's your team, when it's your player, you can just wash away, sweep under the carpet, forget about any mistakes, as long as they make some spectacular saves and you get the result.
Yeah. Like the goals he conceded against Sevilla when they were knocked out, Man U. Shocking, and that was a few years ago. That was a few years ago. That wasn't last year. You know, we're talking about De Gea as if it's only recently that he's been letting in silly goals. No. It's been a regular occurrence.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean, look, we will talk about De Gea for many an episode, I'm sure.
I wish him well. I do wish him well, and I hope he can improve on that, and that maybe he can move on to another club and start afresh and do better. But the fact is that I think a team like Man U is running the risk of getting a bad result in a particular game because they don't have a reliable goalkeeper.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. That's a fair point, and I think that's the most important thing. They need to sort that out, but they're very consistent at the moment. The rest of the game, all fairly pedestrian stuff. Really, we know the game was relatively even. Then obviously at the end, Newcastle collapsed, and some of the regulars. Well, okay, Wan-Bissaka didn't necessarily, he's not a regular, but Fernandes, we know what he's about. He's a great player. He can go to any club at the moment, the way he's playing and fit in.
Missed a penalty for the first time for Man U.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
talk here in Spain that he's wanted by Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Of course he is. I mean, who wouldn't want him? I mean, he is, fair, missed the penalty, but he's just quality. And the thing is that he's got presence. That's what makes it. He's just got that feel of a captain, a man in charge, a man who demands everyone to follow him, and a man who takes people with him.
Definitely, yeah. Mind you, the 4-1 is a bit misleading because it looked like it was going to finish 1-1. The second goal only came in the 80 minute?
86.
You see. Yeah. So it's very deceiving to look at the result. If you saw the scoreline and you didn't see the match, you would have said United trounced Newcastle. No, they didn't. They were very close to drawing. Could have even lost.
Yeah.
What I would like to say is that if anyone gets a chance, they should compare Man United's second goal, Rashford to Fernandes, and Fernandes top corner. They should have a look at the highlights of the World Cup semi-final of 2006 between Italy and Germany, because it's a carbon copy. It's not a goal that you normally see, but it's a carbon copy of the goal that Italy scored. Gilardino to Del Piero, and Del Piero to the top corner. In the same way as the players running outside, the forward is running diagonally inwards and then changes the direction of the ball to the player who's running outside. And the player running outside hits the top corner. Identical.
Wow. No, that's good. Thank you for that. I'm sure some people will look at that and maybe even comment. That'd be great to have some comments on that. Anybody watching, that'd be great. That's fantastic. Any other thoughts on this match?
I would say that the only thing we saw about Man U is that when the opposition are defending in an organized manner, when they're back in their half of the field, United struggle. And Man U have become a counter-attacking side. They do better and look more threatening when they can run at you.
Yeah.
And this is how they managed to win the game. It was 1-1. They weren't really threatening much. well, to be honest, Darlow did make some good saves, but the second goal came from a break, and then the next two goals came because Newcastle started to push forward in order to get an equaliser. Man U found more space, and they managed to get the other two goals. But they have become a counter-attacking side, I think. And the problem is I don't think they've realised it themselves.
Yeah, no, they probably haven't.
Because they're trying to take the game to the opposition, and when they do that, they're not as effective as when they defend and break.
Yeah, I agree, and I think as well. So that you think about some of the managers, they have a philosophy. They're going to play their way, and you don't feel that way with. To be fair, Solskjaer, it's been very muddled, but the team have found their way without, well, maybe with his help, but they found their way of what's more effective, and he's probably obviously harvesting that. Really, that's the way I feel about it. Anyway,
I understand also that Man U are reluctant to play on the break and play defensively and on the break because of who they are.
Yeah.
It's a difficult decision to make, to say this is how we're going to play when you're Man U.
Yeah, but the game's evolving, the game's changing. You've got to evolve with it. So, yeah, it's but it's good. It's good to see that they managed to pull themselves up, but they've still got a long way to go. Long way to go till they actually get anywhere because they're very inconsistent at the moment. So quickly before we go, I know there's some games today as well, which, like we talked about, pay-per-view, which was annoying, which is at the top of the program. Everton still top, which is great. And then obviously Liverpool and then Villa still there, but they haven't played a couple of games, so that's to play. And down below, your game has started. Pay-per-view, as I've said already, is still 0-0.
I'm not paying, so I'm not viewing.
Indeed, which is a fantastic thing. That's the way it should be. So yeah, 0-0. And
by the way, I don't know anyone. None of my Fulham friends have decided to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, why would you? It's a scandal. We said at the start. So it shouldn't be happening. But there's 0-0. We just have to listen to a radio or whatever, or watch it later. Or on our phones, so just get the scores, what's going on. But you guys are playing at the moment, so you're at the bottom with Burnley. West Brom are down there.
That reminds me.
West Brom are down there, but all of you at the bottom, from 17th down, have not won a game. West Brom have got a draw, but no one's won a game. So there's still plenty of games to pull up, and I think
how many points have Everton got?
They've got 13.
You see, we're only 13 points off the top.
It's an easy mountain to climb. Don't worry about it. It's not a mountain. It's a hill. It's a hill. Just a road. Just go up it. But I think with the situation, how many games do you reckon it's going to take? Usually, it's the magic 40 points. This one before we go. How many points do you think you need this year to stay up? Do you think it's going to take 40?
Generally, people always say 40, but generally it's less. Yeah. 35, 36, 37, depending on the season. Yeah. I remember West Ham going down on, was it 42 or 43?
Yeah.
But that was an exception. Normally under 40, but close to 40 is enough. But the fact is, we haven't got a single point yet, so we've got it all to do.
No, I'm sure you will. Listen, I think you'll get there. I think, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I personally think it's going to be a 35-point year. I think so. I think there's becoming a bit of a separation with some of the teams who've kind of been around a bit. So I'll say the top half, probably they'll be pretty much up there or thereabouts. But those below, and I include Newcastle, West Ham, Crystal Palace, who've always been bouncing around the bottom anyway. Man United obviously not, but the rest all going to be fighting. I think it's going to be almost like a championship end to the season.
Well, I was listening to Talk Sport this morning, and Tony Cascarino said that about the Sheffield United Fulham game. He said Sheffield United will not be down there. They'll manage to pull up and be comfortable. And I'm wondering if Sheffield United aren't going to be down there, if West Ham are now obviously not going to be down there, If Aston Villa are now not going to be down there, who on earth is going to get relegated?
I don't understand Tony Cascarino. I don't know how he's even still got a job. So, and you can quote me on that if I ever make the guy. But look, he seems to have a very independent viewpoint on things. I don't think there's many people who follow his viewpoint. I mean, he's popular, he's controversial, whatever. But I mean, who can say stuff like that? Considering on form, how they're playing.
I must say that I do think that Sheffield United are going to struggle. He was saying that they've only lost each game by the odd goal, so they've been in.
So what? They've lost.
But I do think Sheffield United will struggle, and they will find staying in the Premier League a very difficult task. I do think they will. And I think they'll be down there with Fulham. And the thing is, I don't know who else is going to be down there, because I can't imagine Burnley struggling too much.
West Brom, Fulham,
West Brom.
Done okay.
I forgot about West Brom. Yeah, West Brom, Sheffield United, Fulham. But who else? I mean, they might be the three teams that go down.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't think of anyone else who will struggle enough to save one of those three teams.
What about Brighton?
No, I don't think so. I like Brighton. They've had some tough matches. They've had to play big teams, and they have outplayed big teams and got nothing. But that's what normally happens when you play a big team. I think they'll pick up enough points. Graham Potter is a good manager. They play attractive football. They like to attack. They defend well as well. They're solid, well balanced. I think that for a small club, I think they're going to have a good season, which should be mid or lower mid table.
Okay, we'll see. I mean, you said that thing about Cascarino going on about the odd goal here and there. Watford were amazing, and they still went down. Now we know about the Villa situation, but Watford, they were the ones who got the scalp of the Liverpool, the great and magical and powerful Liverpool, and yet they still went down.
Exactly. You can never tell at this early stage. I remember, and this was ages ago in the 70s, Carlisle were top of the old First Division, what is now the Premier League. Early, they were top. And they got relegated, of course. Yeah. West Ham, traditionally, start well and finish badly. Not now, not so much now. Nowadays, they start badly and finish badly. But but not this season. Not this season. They've started well. But I remember them a couple of decades ago when they would start well and then be in a relegation battle. It's difficult to predict what's going to happen at such an early stage in the season.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'll never forget, as an Arsenal fan, that when Birmingham City were in the Premiership and they beat us in the final of the League Cup, I was there in Wembley.
Yeah.
Oh, I was raging.
And they got relegated that year, didn't they?
And they got relegated.
Yeah.
They won the League Cup. And they were going on with themselves. They made the video, did well. I think, was it McLeish or one of those guys was in charge of them, I think. And Alex McLeish, I think, was in charge. And,
Who has also been manager of Villa.
Yeah, I know. That's bad, isn't it?
Birmingham and Villa.
It's mad. But then again, George Graham was manager of Arsenal and Tottenham.
Yeah.
But we sacked him because of the bunging. So there you go. But it's crazy. You win the League Cup and they were going on with themselves, and then it was all going off because they were losing games. And they were saying, we can't rest on our laurels. We must stay up, after winning the League Cup. And they still went down. So no one is immune from it. But yeah, like I said, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, yeah.
You mentioned Watford. Watford did not seem like relegation candidates last season.
No.
It was only right at the end that they were dragged into it.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just,
and they weren't a bad side, I tell you. They were not.
No, a good side, very good side. I don't know. Are most of them still there before we go? Are they still there?
Well, Doucouré has gone to Everton.
Okay.
I thought Doucouré was great. I thought Doucouré was great. And, we've talked, when we talk about Everton, we talk about James, we talk about Allen.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've mentioned Doucouré playing next to Allen in midfield. And I think his role is very, very important.
Okay. Troy Deeney's still there, though, isn't he?
I think he was released.
Oh, okay.
I think he was released, which was a shame. I wouldn't have minded Fulham signing him.
Yeah. I mean, he must have. I wonder where he's gone. But anyway, well, that'll be for another show. So yeah, that'll be all good. But yeah, well, I wish him all the best, really. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I've heard interviews with him, and he seems like a nice guy as well.
Yeah, he's down to earth. He's down to earth. So, right, I'll leave you to it. So it's 0-0 still.
Yeah,
and, we're gonna leave it there. But let us know your thoughts anyway about all this. We've talked obviously about the games, which have been lovely, but pay-per-view for football is just nuts. We want everybody to continue to follow that hashtag about not boycotting pay-per-view, boycott PPV. Follow it. Make sure you vote with your money and don't pay, and stay away from it, really. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. And thanks for watching the football show. Thanks, Carlos, as always.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. So yeah, thanks for watching the football show, and let us know your comments. Thank you.